Welcome back, everyone. Today, I have a special treat for you. I wasn't going to cover this, but oh my goodness, we have to look a little bit deeper into it because we got Meghan Markle at this Time Studios 100 event interviewed by Time CEO Jessica Sibley, aka the safest interviewer since Oprah asked, "Were you silent or were you silenced?" But the reason I want to cover this is because her body language is screaming, "I am uncomfortable," or "I am a liar." Let's get into it.
Meghan,
Hi.
we're so excited to have you here today.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here.
I first want to just say congratulations to you on everything that you've done and everything that you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's been a very full it's been a full few months
Full
for
year.
sure. Yeah.
So this conversation is about her journey, your journey. And I want to start.
We have 20 minutes.
Yeah, we do.
It's been a journey.
We do. We can go over. We'll just lunch after. Your journey. I want to talk about you as a founder, as a CEO, as an innovator, as a creator, as an investor.
Oh, hold on to your seats because I have a lot to say about this. Because why is Meghan even on the stage? She's being introduced as founder, a CEO, an innovator, but let's keep it real, okay? Her track record as a businesswoman, spotty at best. We've seen one semi-successful rollout, the Harry and Meghan docuseries, which, let's be honest, succeeded because of who they are, not what they built. Whew, I feel the sass coming because beyond that, the ventures have been messy. Deals fumbled, projects delayed, teams replaced, podcasts that vanished after one season. And we're still waiting on her groundbreaking content empire to actually ground itself. And yet, here she is, sitting center stage at Time Studios 100, treated like she's Elon Musk of biscuits and jam, all because she married into royalty. That's it. That's her resume. So if the bar is now have one decent business year propped up by global fame and fail the rest, then please hand out chairs to every scrappy entrepreneur, freelancer, hustler, and kitchen table dreamer out there. Because guess what? We've done more with a lot less. We failed forward without a palace press team to catch us. This isn't about merit. This is about narrative. Meghan isn't here for her business success. She is here because of the story her image still sells. And that, my friends, is what makes this entire production a PR case study. And the reason why I continue making videos about it. Not a celebration of entrepreneur excellence like she thinks she is. Whew. Okay.
We have the CEO of Netflix here. I did binge your show with Love, Meghan. There's nothing you can't do, which is amazing. But talk about how this became a business.
Well, with I think always credit where credit's due. You know, I know Ted Sarandos will be here later on today, and Ted has been such an incredible partner in the partnership my husband and I have had with Netflix for the past few years. And then Bella Bajaria as well has just been so incredibly supportive. And I think just naturally, I was doing what I've always loved to do. And people couldn't see that more broadly, but what I'd love to do was always make things in my kitchen, do small flower arrangements, make a lot of jam. And when I was sending those as gifts, one day Bella said, "There's a show here." And I hadn't at the onset thought that that was something that I wanted to share in that way. And creatively, we worked as partners to really find a way for it to land and for me to be able to share it and just have fun, which is really, I think, the goal in this chapter, for me, certainly. And then you just watch the extensions of that, where Netflix coming on as my business partner for the brand, as ever, is really an extension of the evolution of our partnership together, and they complement each other.
Jessica starts with the usual love bombing. There's nothing you can do, which is funny because apparently clarity wasn't on the list. Meghan kicks off by crediting Netflix executives like Ted Sarandos and Bella for seeing a show in her jam-making hobby. Because yes, Netflix discovered Meghan's talent and just had to showcase it Apparently, they watched her arrange some flowers and thought, move over, barefoot Contessa. There's a new Duchess in town. But what's even more fascinating is it's not what she says, it's what her body does. As she starts talking about Netflix partnering with her, she looks down. It's subtle. But in PR, nothing is ever just a coincidence. The down glance, the given discomfort, like even she can't sell the full narrative. But when I saw this interview, I said, oh my goodness, this is something she cannot control to the T. And she can't. Her body is just doesn't like it. Because let's be real, this isn't some grassroots passion project turned series. This is a post-royal, post-content strategy rollout. It's less they discovered me and more we needed a new angle after all her projects have fell flat, except for the very first one, of course. The awkward delivery just underscores what's always been the issue. The disconnect between the polished pitch and the human underneath. Now, if your body language betrays your words, the audience won't buy it either. Authenticity isn't just said, it's shown.
What I love about the show is that you bring in your family, you bring in your friends, you bring in like the team, the crew, you make them part of the show.
That was very important to me.
And so talk to me a little bit about, you care for so many people and you talk about joy and love. Everything that you do comes with caring for the people that are on your show and around you. You're CEO. There's a lot of glam, but we know there's a lot of grit and grind. How do you care for yourself?
Oh, thank you for asking that. Well, look, I think part of what's really, really important is that love language of taking care of people also really feeds me. And I think that is in many ways part of my self-care, which can feel confusing for a lot of people. You go, well, how do you show up for all these people and not feel depleted? But a lot of times, if you're doing it in a way where you are giving in a way that is thoughtful and intentional and so authentic, it actually energizes you as opposed to depleting you. So as an example, when you mention the crew as a character, when I said, how are we going to do a cooking show or a crafting show that doesn't feel like a typical stand and stir, which we all remember from back in the days, where you stand, look at camera, and you're stirring something. I didn't necessarily want to do that. And I didn't want a reality show. And so the only way to feel as though you were still in conversation with me, I felt, was I had to be talking to the people in the room with me.
All right, so let's talk about the realness Meghan claims to bring, like including her crew as characters in her show. Sounds lovely, until you realize this was probably a workaround to avoid the traditional host format that she talks about that makes her feel stiff on camera. Is that really what she felt like? It was stiff on camera? She says that she didn't want to just stand there and mix, and stir like a cooking show. But let's be honest, what she created is more stand and whisper and curated lighting. Like she didn't do any better. We were all wondering, why aren't you looking at the camera? There's a disconnect. Look at the camera. And then Jessica Ever, the polite facilitator, throws a series of softball questions. You bring in your family, your friends, your crew. It's meant to sound like this warm, inclusive vision. But let's pause for a second here, because family, Meghan doesn't talk to hers or his family. Friends? Aside from Oprah-level allies, most of her old crew seems to have been left behind in royal dust. So what we're really left with is her crew. That's really all. And even that felt more functional than familial. Like this wasn't about bonding. It was about avoiding dead air. Trust me, I know. We always try to do something to avoid dead air. Nobody likes that. Oh, but here's where it gets interesting. One of the last questions Jessica throws out is about how Meghan feels. And in that moment, when Meghan responds with thank you for asking that, she blinks excessively, like rapid fire blinking. Now, excessive blinking can be a natural reaction to bright lights and nerves. I get that. But Meghan has so much stress in front of the camera. It's what happens when your brain is telling you this part matters, this part is sensitive, don't mess it up. you're messing it up because you're trying to sell something that isn't the truth, in my opinion. It's subtle, but you cannot miss it because it shifts the tone. Because for all the perfectly arranged aesthetics, the real emotion creeps through, not in what she says, but in how she says it. It's polished vulnerability with panic in the margins, and you can see it. The blinking, that's not weakness, it's exposure. The body always tells the truth, wants to tell the truth, even when the brand tries not to. Now, I don't say this lightly. I've been trained to be in front of the camera, and throughout my broadcasting career, I've trained others to do the same. From how they pronounce their lines to how they carry themselves on camera, I've seen it all. And here's the thing, your body always tells on you. Most people don't even realize that it's happening. But when you're trying to mask discomfort or push the narrative that doesn't fully align with your truth, your body will most likely slip. Maybe it's a glance downward, a nervous blink, or a shift in posture. Subtle, but revealing. And it always has to do with something of yours. So it might not be the same for everyone, but it's always something subtle that doesn't belong there. And in this interview, Meghan does a lot of that. Like, take me, for example. Last night I had a terrible night. I couldn't sleep. And I am fighting to have that peppiness that I usually have in front of the camera, but my body will not lie. I see myself in the screen and I look tired. So my body is not lying to you. It's the subtle cues. You can tell when someone's fighting to stay polished while their body is having a whole other conversation. It's not malicious, it's human. But in PR, that kind of unspoken tension is gold because it means you're not watching a performance anymore. You're watching someone trying to manage one.
And your third platform, which I love, is your podcast. Confessions of a Female Founder, and you've had some of the most incredible women on your show. You're really supporting women, and I love that. We need more of that. What are your confessions?
Well,
as a female founder,
there are quite a lot of them on the episodes, I will say. So Confessions of a Female Founder felt as though it was the perfect complement for what I was building at this point in my life. Between the series and between the brand, I thought, how interesting is it to be able to listen to the conversations of someone building a business while they're doing it? And that includes all of the pivots and twists and turns and redirections that happen, as any entrepreneur will tell you. Every day is full of surprises. And, on the show, the other show, on the Netflix series, I will say surprise and delight. In the business of building, they're not always delightful surprises, but they are great teachable moments. The confession of that is that's not glamorous. That's not what I think people imagine I'm doing in my kitchen, but it's important. And a lot of those are revealed throughout the 8 episodes of the series with Limonada, which is a female-founded podcast production company that I'm working with. And they're fantastic. But I think a confession for you today that I could very comfortably say is I'm the happiest that I've ever been. I never would have imagined getting here at this point. I would feel just so happy and grateful, and I really do.
Okay, so Meghan's podcast, Confession of a Female Founder, which if you have been on this channel for more than a minute, you know we've endured the first 3 episodes and learned absolutely nothing. It's polished platitudes and fluffy sound bites masquerading as wisdom. Then the cherry on top, the interviewer says Meghan is really helping women. I mean, is she though? Let's call it what it is. Meghan is helping herself. She always has. And if you actually watch her content, whether it's the podcast or her Netflix show, it's glaringly obvious. Every episode is an ode to her narrative, her lens, her life. If your platform only serves you, it's not empowerment, it's marketing. Let's not confuse self-promotion with service. Then naturally, the interviewer asks the perfect softball question. What's your confession, Meghan? And honestly, I cut that short, and I'll tell you why, because in true Meghan fashion, we're launched into one of her signature word salads. It's long, It's scattered, and I'm convinced by the time she reached the halfway mark, she forgot what the question even was. Because then out of nowhere, she just blurts out, the confession for me is, I'm the happiest I've ever been. Like, wait, what? How did we get here, Meghan? How did what's your confession become a vague, self-congratulatory emotional pivot? Like, what happened? What the what? There was no arc, no insight, no reveal, just another round of personal branding in the form of ambiguous optimism. Whew.
Oh,
I love how a journalist from Business Insider lived your life for a week, or tried to live the show for a week.
okay, that I didn't hear about. What
Yeah.
was their week like?
My team's like, don't talk about it.
What was their week
Other
like?
media company, but
That's so
I
funny.
love that, and you can, not on the script.
This might actually be one of the most revealing interviews Meghan's done. Not because of what she says, but because of what she cannot hide. For once, we get a glimpse of the real Meghan, the one who's clearly uncomfortable, tightly gripping the script and doing her best to stay inside the lines, the perfectly curated lines that she usually puts on. And yes, let's not pretend otherwise. This interview is scripted. As you heard right now, completely scripted. She went off script, and Meghan just seems completely uncomfortable. But what makes it fascinating is that Meghan still struggles to stay in the rhythm. Even though it's scripted, you can see her trying to stick the landing, using all the right buzzwords, giving all the intentional answers and word salad, yet her body tells her a different story. The blinking, the downward glances, the stiff delivery when discussing topics that should flow naturally, like joy, gratitude, I don't know, everything humans usually feel, it cracks the glossy center. From my point of view, the more scripted something is, the harder it is to fake authenticity.
Well, you are a very high-profile person. You are under a lot of microscopes, scrutiny. How do you just stay focused, minimize the noise, not get distracted?
Yeah.
Give us some tools, tactics. We all have that in
Yes.
our lives.
Well, when I was backstage listening to Ryan speak, and he gave that quote, which you all would have heard, what did he say? Tina Fey said, if you're feeling good about yourself, just, you don't want to, what did he say verbatim? If you're feeling good about yourself, go online.
Right.
Yeah, just go online. So I don't do that. I've made a very, very conscious effort to create boundaries for myself and for my mental health, for my well-being, and certainly to role model that as well for my children. And things will get brought to my attention on a need-to-know basis. Outside of that, I'm kind of late on the boat for a lot of things going on, and I'm okay with that. That's part of what I find to bring me peace.
Okay, so Meghan claims she's on a need-to-know basis and just doesn't look at any of it. She's just floating above it all, unbothered, unread, and unaffected. Okay, sure, Meghan, we'll give you this one. But here's the thing, that doesn't track, not even a little, because time and time again, we've seen swift and surgical PR responses to stories she clearly didn't like, from press statements to legal threats to friends suddenly appearing in media with anonymous quotes. And those things don't just poof happen without someone being extremely plugged in. And then there's the strategic silence, I might add, on stories that expose her contradiction and catch her in lies. Those stories, I don't know, not a word, complete silence, no denial, and no rebuttal. Now, when someone says, I don't pay attention to the noise, what they often mean is, I only react when the narrative doesn't serve me. It's not about ignorance, it's about selective engagement. Then she continued talking about her kids, which honestly I find boring, and we will skip through that in this channel. But what I will not ignore is how often the mom card gets pulled as a shield whenever the questions get too real or the answers get too vague. So we'll leave it here at the intersection of storytelling and strategy and a whole lot of spin. Guys, thank you very much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe before you leave, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.